Pleasant greetings, y'all. Proud Filipina Charms Espina here, who when growing up was exposed early to classical music, paintings by the masters and impressionists, as well as dance. While reading, writing, and arithmetic are the core skills, music, illustrations, paintings, and dance are the creative skills. In today's presentation of VOA Connect, we profile a young black woman whose passion and profession is leading an orchestra as its conductor, and a visual artist who learned his craft while in prison. In Art Speaks.
If American orchestras are going to survive, American orchestras need to look like America. We need to look like black people, we need to look like Latino people, we need to have members who are from the Native American community. Orchestras need to be just like America.
Creativity is the ability to self-manage and create your own life, and that's what democracy is all about. And so for me, arts education is fundamental to being able to instill democratic ideals in the next generation.
That was the thing that kept me going, was the challenge to say, hey, I'm going to make it through this part of my life, and I'm going to get home and I'm going to have a practice. I studied like a lot. What paints are made out of, the materials, what the masters painted with.
There are youth orchestras all over the United States. Most of them are in suburbs. Most of them are in outlying areas, not in inner city areas. They're in areas where there is great wealth. They're in areas that are very Anglo. There aren't youth orchestras in the middle of the ghetto, and that's where these young people live. And they can play. They can play just as well, if not better. To my best knowledge, our orchestra, the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles, is now the largest primarily African-American orchestra in the entire country, youth or non. We certainly are the largest youth orchestra. When we're full now, we've grown from that original 9 to 24. When we play a full concert at like a Disney Hall now, we've got 125, 130 young people on that stage. The inspiration came from the young people who wanted a place to do music that was safe, that was in their community, where they didn't have to go miles and miles away to do it, where it didn't cost them anything. When they asked me to do it, it's kind of hard to say no.
He called me and asked me, would I be interested in starting a youth orchestra? Along with me, I got 8 other responses, and the 9 of us started this group at the beginning of the summer of 2009.
Organization grew and grew and grew, and next thing I know, I was playing for Michelle Obama. I was playing on the National Mall. I was playing at the Hollywood Bowl for the NFL. I've met so many different people, and I've gained so much performing experience.
We take young people as young as 10 years old. And the core of our orchestra are young people who are middle school and high school age. The young people don't pay. We don't charge a tuition or a fee so that they can participate. I think just about every young person who's in our orchestra today has their own instrument. But if they don't have an instrument, we will provide an instrument for them at no cost. Those young people who participate in our program, they're involved in high-level activity. They're going to make it in other areas of life that are high level. The disciplines of music are transferable into other areas of life. To learn how to play, you got to practice. To practice, that means doing something over and over and over again in the pursuit of excellence until you get it right. When you instill that kind of discipline in a young child, you are changing the world. I am of the view that we need to have an inner city youth orchestra in every city of the United States where there is a substantial number of, where there's a critical mass of young people who are black. My mantra is we need to have one every place where there's an NFL team.
I'm brown, I'm Hispanic. Yeah, I play French horn in this orchestra. I'm very lucky to be a member of this orchestra for many years, especially when it comes to classical music and orchestras. They do not have enough Hispanic people or African American people in those groups. And thanks to this orchestra, they give us the opportunity to prove that we do belong in those groups, that we belong to be on those stages, playing Mozart, Haydn, Mahler.
If American orchestras are going to survive, American orchestras need to look like America. We need to look like black people, we need to look like Latino people, we need to have members who are from the Native American community. Orchestras need to be just like America.
Music is joy. It's joyful. And I feel like whatever orchestra I'm standing in front of, whether it's my orchestra or another orchestra, I want all of us to be able to rekindle that joy that we all first felt, as young students starting out in the business. This is my first time with the National Symphony here at the Kennedy Center. They've been incredibly generous and really wonderful to work with. Often when you do programs like this that involve a lot of technical back and forth, there are actors on stage, there are visuals being projected, so there's a lot of moving parts in addition to just the music making. And so just their patience, their diligence, their really willingness to throw themselves into this work and into the spirit of it, I've been so grateful for. She can just come on. They're tuning. Tuning, tuning, tuning.
This is how it happened.
Because this piece that we are presenting is based upon the book of the same name, Because, which was written by Mo Willems, a very famous children's book author, and illustrated by Amber Wren. The book itself is about the way that beauty gets passed on from one generation to the next because people are inspired.
This is how it happened. Because a man named Ludwig made beautiful music, a man named Franz was inspired to create his own.
And then as we progress, we see that because Schubert wrote this symphony and so many people wanted to hear it, how orchestra performances get put together.
Because many others loved and practiced their instruments, there were enough musicians.
So there's all these elements about how a concert works, so that when children come to a concert, they're aware that there are ushers who are making sure that the seats are ready. There are people who are facilitating the lighting.
Because someone's uncle caught a cold, someone's aunt had an extra ticket for someone special. Because the usher helped the aunt and her special guest, they found their seats.
In this process, we see then a young girl who gets invited to this concert quite by accident, and she falls in love with the music that she sees on stage. And because she was at this concert, she then is inspired to become a composer and a conductor and share her gift of music with the world that will then inspire another child who's in the audience hearing her music. The music that has been composed for this, that represents the new music of the young girl, is written by a really wonderful composer, Jessie Montgomery, and she had wonderful assistance in the arrangement by Janina Norputh. So it's a really collaborative effort bringing this project to life. When I got the email from the Kennedy Center asking to participate in this project, and I was like in the quiet car on the train, and I was like, kind of like screaming, because I have a now 6-year-old daughter, and I had bought this book for her when she was 4, and I would read it to her. And so I knew this book when they said it, and I love it so much because this story was my story. I was inspired by a concert to become a composer and conductor, and so I really identified with this, and so I was so honored and excited to be a part of this project. I started out as a pianist at the age of 4. I studied piano at a very young age. I've always loved music, and I was really lucky to have some family friends of my parents take me to my first orchestra concert. I'll never forget. It was in Minnesota. That's where we were living at the time. I'll never forget. It was a beautiful Beethoven symphony. I don't remember which one it was, but I just fell in love with the music. I fell in love with the spectacle and the power of seeing all of those musicians playing different instruments in different ways, making music together. I did not see a piano on the stage, and so like in my 7-year-old brain, I kind of figured, okay, if I want to make that music, I have to do what I see the man on the stage doing, waving this stick around. And so that's how I decided right then I wanted to be a conductor. I think that leadership is serving others. And so my job as the conductor is literally to allow the music to come through me and to share that with the musicians and to create a space that allows them for the music to also come through them.
And because I love conducting so much, I enjoy teaching other young people how to conduct. And so at this point, I would like to ask if there are any mildly enthusiastic young people out there in the audience, too, who might want to come up and get a conducting lesson with the National Symphony Orchestra.
Not just music, but the arts in general are really critical. I think for a lot of years, people probably felt that teaching the arts in public schools may have been a luxury. It's not a core skill like reading and writing and arithmetic and science. But I think one of the things that we see very, very recently is how important creativity is to critical thinking skills, to social emotional development, and also to give children a sense of agency, that they have the ability to identify their emotions and thoughts and express them constructively in a way that allows them to make their way through society in a variety of institutions. This is how we begin to very gently and softly teach children how democracy works. Creativity is the ability to self-manage and create your own life, and that's what democracy is all about. And so for me, arts education is fundamental to being able to instill democratic ideals in the next generation.
Come on up. I have 3 batons. Okay.
I hope for the families coming to the Because event is that they leave feeling inspired to wave a pencil or a baton or something around and just feel the power of music in themselves and think about how they might be able to express that. You know, it isn't necessary for everyone to be a world-class violinist or you've been studying piano for 20 years. If you love music and you want to just sing or clap your hands and express yourself any way you want to, we don't own Beethoven. We don't own Schubert, we don't own Montgomery. This is something that belongs to all of us.
That is how it happened!
Oh, we're in luck. Yes, we are. Yeah. Got some live paint here. Gotta try to, yeah, get it across. And then, like that. My name is Jared Scott Owens. I'm a visual artist. My practice is still developing. I'm incorporating found object. I have a background in ceramics and assemblage and some installation art. I went to prison for conspiracy to possess narcotics, cocaine. Life in the federal prison was like waiting at DMV with stabbings in between. It was like my 5th year. I was walking through the rec yard and they had a ceramic program there. I mean, I remember that I did ceramics as a child. It was my first love. So I started going in there. I got the ceramic bug, which is a weird bug to get, but the ceramic bug is good because it's very Zen-like, so to take your mind off of your situation. So I needed that, and then eventually wound up teaching classes and taking over a lot of responsibilities inside the ceramic room itself, teaching other guys throughout the years. Well, I segued into painting because I always painted too. I had an easel in junior high school and high school, and then I started really looking at art in magazines, and I said, you know what, I need to paint. I understand the language, what it takes to do it, and I didn't have the material to do it, but I could visualize what it was to paint. How art helped me in prison was definitely a coping mechanism, but it was also an exercise in seeing what I can get away with while I was in there. I always need to feel like I'm breaking the law for some reason, and art made me feel like I was breaking the law while I was in prison without really doing anything that's gonna get me in big trouble. Even making pieces inside, anything that was made to me was valuable because it was creativity in a place that was supposed to oppress you. That was the thing that kept me going, was the challenge to say, hey, I'm gonna make it through this part of my life, and I'm gonna get home and I'm gonna have a practice. I studied like a lot. What paints are made out of, the materials, what the masters painted with, what they had, what they didn't have, the first cadmiums when they were on a canvas, like who was the first one to do that? Like I was interested in all that. And that kept me going. So in this jar is soil from FCI Ferriton. This is a peanut butter jar that's sold in commissary. I would just clean these out. I would go to the yard, I'd scoop up some dirt. It's a pretty soil. Like, this is the soil from like that part of New Jersey. And it's unlike the soil here in New York, believe it or not. It's got a different color to it. I was looking for a conceptual, physical element from inside the prison that spoke about everybody that's inside the prison. And this is the only thing I could find that had the DNA, the blood, sweat, and tears of every, person who ever came through the prison was probably in this soil from the weight pile. So for me, the idea also, it came from watching Saving Private Ryan when the guy was taking soil from all the battlefields and sticking it in his backpack, and this is kind of like the same thing for me. There's a finite amount of it. I'll never go back and get any more of it. So for me, it's a precious material, and I actually cut it with sand. Like this little bit that's left might make it into like 15 paintings. It's ever present. It's in all the work. So the other thing that I incorporate into my practice is I call it the carceral palette or the prison palette, which is the hues are usually cadmiums, Indian yellows, just really dull colors. But they're bright, but they're dulled. The only place you're gonna find this palette is inside prison. It's just I'm an antenna. So I grab things out of the way they feel. So like the work behind me is titled Nemesis. I don't really do figurative painting, but I like this one because I did it by accident. And it's got everything that I love. It's just a loose painting, and it was a painting I did during when we had the upheavals because of the George Floyd killing. The bricks that are inside this dumpster, they're really over 50, 60 years old, maybe even older. They don't fire them like that anymore, so to me, it's a material that's valuable because it can't be replicated. And as far as applying it to a carceral aesthetic, I mean, bricks are used to build buildings, and unfortunately, some of the buildings that bricks build are prisons. And yeah, I just wish I can get in here to grab some of them. Civil Arts Residency decided in its second year to incorporate individuals that are affected by mass incarceration, mainly formerly incarcerated artists. We have 3 slots open every year for people who fit that criteria. And this first iteration of that is artist Jesse Crimes, who's also my good friend. Mary Baxter is also my good friend. And Russell Craig, also one of my good friends, all formerly incarcerated, all in the nonprofit world, and all making contributions to end mass incarceration. Now I'm into these found objects, and they're everywhere, you know. I see beauty and I see a carceral aesthetic in a lot of these objects. Like, I get a lot of feedback on the work, and there's really, I don't try to message in the work, but people extrapolate messages from the work on their own, and that's fine with me. It's fascinating to hear people to have subject matter that's really dark and then present it in a way that is more palatable to the eyes and to the senses, but it's still dark subject matter. The first time I saw this piece was in a reclamation yard, and the reclamation yard is in wine country in North Fork, Long Island. So I'm assuming that somebody had in a winery, they commissioned somebody to build this thing and then store wine in it. The bottles would have went this way. But when I see it, I see cells, I see tears, I see prison, I see a carceral aesthetic that I just can't escape. It looks like it was designed as a prison. I never really I just think about my practice as it's just going. I don't really think about past, present. There's no linear aspect to anything that I'm doing. It's kind of like a lot of happenstances in the work, and I'm just going with the flow. I don't have a calendar that says I want to be at this point, where will you be in 5 years? I try to live every day as if, what am I doing today? I might mess with this today. See what comes of it.
And that's it for today. Hope you all enjoyed that as much as we did. We look forward to you joining us for tomorrow's Inside Story offerings. And here's reminding you to work hard and dream big. Count those blessings and be kind, and catch the news right here. This is Sharms Espina for Stories from the Grid.